a pick and roll with it. Make a pick and roll with it. Betting weekly. Fast break. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown.
Welcome in to another live edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. Thank you for spending your last Tuesday in July here with us from wherever you are in the world. I'm Sara Civian in Boston, and I'm joined by professional handicapper Albert Nguyen in Dallas. Albert, I've been seeing a couple fun things from you lately on your Instagram account at Analytics Capper, which everyone should be following if they aren't already. How's your week in betting going?
It's been going great. It's only Tuesday, so it's day 2, but Monday was great. We went 7-2. Never can complain about winning days, but I'm excited about the W. I wasn't on any plays last night, but there's a couple games that I'm really eyeing today, so I'm excited to talk about it with you.
We'll get into it, and we'll also get into the fact that it was a pretty great Monday in your neck of the woods last night. You did not bet on this game. I did not either, but I watched it in all its glory as Paige Beckers and Enrique Ugambowale combined for 40 points and held on for the Wings' win against Liberty. I take it you were at least a little bit locked into that one?
Yeah, I mean, Paige Buckets is so good. She is so skilled. She hits some ridiculous shots. There's one, that's going around social media where she crosses the defender basically 3 times and hits a step back fadeaway to her right. I mean, that's a really hard shot. That's a lot of skill, and it's cool to watch the Wings. What's funny is Doug and I, we did one of these shows, Fast Breaks, last week, and we were like, there's no way the Wings are going to have a good second half of the year. We kind of like the under wins total, and then they end up winning back-to-back games as outright underdogs. I mean, that's really impressive. I mean, they beat the Liberty. That's not a bad team right there. So good win by Dallas. And I'm excited as a Wings fan, just because I know the team is going to get better. I know they're going to do a lot of stuff this offseason, and they're moving to downtown Dallas, which is a big deal, right? Just like all these big metropolitan areas, Sarah, like it's hard to get to places. And so the fact that they're moving downtown, there's going to be a lot more people, a lot more access there. And I think that's only going to build the excitement for the Wings in the city.
100%. That's a great point, because the PWHL, the Women's Professional Hockey League, just had a team start in Boston, but it's in Lowell, which is like 45 minutes away. So it's a tough sell when it's a new team, right? And then it's even tougher when you have to take the train 45 minutes out of the city. So I'd like to see them and an WNBA team come to Boston, but getting the team in Dallas would be amazing. And Buckets, what I love about her, she's just cool as a cucumber. She's calm. I guess it's like the UConn school of kind of PR or whatever, but she has like really great interviews where she's actually providing you information, but she says exactly what she needs to say too. I love that she said last night, like, don't focus on me, guys. Enrique got 14 assists too. This game story is about her. I thought that was all class.
I think that's such a great thing to point out, Sarah, and it's actually a very good argument. Like, is Cooper Flagg going to have more of an impact on the Dallas Mavericks than Paige Beckers on the Dallas Wings? And I say no. I think Paige is the perfect player for this team to start a franchise around. I think Paige is on a list of like 5 or 6 players, right? And so the fact that she's here in Dallas is a blessing for the team, for the city. I think as long as a team builds around her correctly, she's only gonna, lift everybody up, and Dallas can actually be a contending team from years on out. Yeah.
So from years on out, for sure. This year, obviously not so much, but what do you expect to see down the stretch here from this young core?
I do see some load management. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. I know that there's no minimum. I asked Doug, just to get some clarifications. When it comes to awards, it's different from the NBA. There's no minimum games that these players have to meet. Paige basically is a runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year. That's going to be part of her resume moving forward, even if she sits out the rest of the year. So I think you're going to see the Wings start resting her, start resting Enrique. Maybe they're shopping Enrique. I hope they are, because it's good value right now. They could get one or two, high draft picks and then build from there, because the timeline, this is not a two timeline thing like the Golden State Warriors, and they failed, right? They failed doing that with Steph Curry. I think this is a one timeline thing. Focus on Paige Beckers. She is your future and your present. And as long as they continue to build around her, I think it's a winning play.
So funny with Enrique's trade value. I feel like we're always talking about it kind of game by game, because she's that type of player that, I mean, she can make the best impact on a playoff team exactly where you need her. But yeah, maybe it doesn't fit in with the plans of the future for this Wings team. So you could get some great value.
At the end of the day, she's an all-star. She's been an
Yeah.
Olympian. She's a good player. And exactly what you said, in stretches, she could be a great player. And so if a contending team picks her up and she's a sixth man for that team, or six woman for that team, or first woman off the bench, I mean, that is a really explosive, weapon to bring into the game. So I think Enrique would be a great ad for someone like Vegas, right? For someone like Liberty, who Dallas just beat. I mean, they saw firsthand how impactful she can be in the court.
100%. We also saw last night the Storm pulverize the Sun 101-85, while Storm guard Skylar Diggins recorded her first regular season triple-double. That was a little surprising to me. It kind of shows how bad the Sun are doing right now. It is pretty brutal to watch. Did you place any wagers on that game?
No, this is one of the, I guess, buyer's remorse or FOMO that I had. I was staring, Sarah. I was staring at this bed all day long because the Sun had just lost their previous game. They were big favorites and they lost outright. So not only they lost spread, but they lost a game. And this was the perfect team to face right after a losing game. Like, you can bounce back against the worst team in the league. And I wanted that first half spread. It was only like 5.5, and they won. I think they led at halftime by like 12 or 13 points. So it was an easy cash. I wish I should have done it, but it's another example of, trusting the numbers versus trusting the gut, taking the analysis, or is it too easy? Like, there's going to be questions and like affirmations that each bettor is going to have to go through every single day, depending on what you're betting on. And sometimes the best answer is just to trust the gut and trust what you thought initially. And there's going to be numbers that say no to that, and there'll be numbers that affirm that. But if you trust your gut, and if you're good at this, right, and your gut is right the majority of the time, then you should trust it a lot more often.
Yeah, that's a great point. And maybe it makes sense that I didn't make this an official bet, but I did bet it myself behind the scenes. Another maybe over 1.53s
Nice.
made. And that didn't, no, it didn't hit.
Oh, it didn't
So
hit.
it's like the angel and the devil over your shoulder right now, or me and Albert. I'm like, I do the thing. And you're like, maybe hold off. You were correct. I was not. That did not cash in for me. So it does go to show that, all right, I was thinking maybe with my gut that, you know what, maybe their time is coming right now, and maybe this is going to be kind of like a trap game, as you say, but I did it anyway, and I took the heat for that. So next time I will listen to you. And this was the 5th time this season the Sun have allowed 100 plus points. So when a team is allowing this much, do you fade them? Do you look at individual player props for the other team? Maybe, like, what's your strategy going forward here?
That's a good question, and it's always a bettor's dilemma when we go, get towards the end of the season, Sarah, because you don't know the motivation factor for any of these players, right? It's men or women. At the end of the day, both are human, and both, if you're 20 games out of, first place or whatever the record the Sun have, like, they're making plans for the offseason. Let's be honest, right? They're calling their significant others or their families, and they're making plans, vacation plans, because they know they're not going to play postseason basketball. Some of them also might be auditioning for the trade market, right? So you just don't know from a motivation standpoint. And so that, I guess for me, that's my long-winded way of saying, like, it's more of a layoff. Like, the teams that are really, really bad, I don't touch. And the teams that are really, really good and elite, I don't touch, because a lot of those teams have a standard that they have to play up to. And if they have one bad quarter, you're not gonna hit your minus 12.5 spread, right? So I tend to, like, focus on the teams in the middle. For those who are like racing fans in F1, like, the middle of the pack is where all the action is. That's where all the overtaking is. That's where the opportunities to find angles are, in my opinion.
That's such a good point. And then you look at what the Sun were willing to do, kind of trading away their entire roster at one point. It's like these women who are playing, maybe they don't want to be there, or maybe they think maybe it's not safe in the future. So why would they participate in the tank? You just can't know. You can never really know. Motivation, I can't imagine, is at an all-time high, but maybe a motivation to leave is. So that presents such an interesting dilemma there. But yeah, I will not. After I did everything I could with the spreads and the Mabries, and now I think I am going to lay off of the Connecticut Sun for the time being. So, like you say, the middle of the pack here, there are a few teams actually like really gunning for the bubble in the playoff, and it's getting hot, especially starting tonight. So, Cameron Brink is set to make her season debut against the Aces 13 months after tearing her left ACL. Albert, this has been one of my most anticipated events of the season, and it's coming as the Sparks ride a league best 5 game win streak with their playoff hopes still alive. What kind of impact are you expecting Brink's return to have on the Sparks team?
It's interesting because this is her first game back. I personally have experience from recovering from ACL surgery, tore it twice, so I understand like that first few months mentally is the hurdle. It's not the physical aspect of it, right? Because she's able to run, jump, cut, all that. It's arguable that her actual ACL is probably the strongest ligament in her knee right now after it's been repaired, right? It's really the mental aspect of it. So it's hard to project that. It's hard to handicap that. I'm looking at a few outlets here. You know, her point total is set at 9.5. I think that's a little high, to be honest, Sarah, because I think she is going to have a minutes restriction, not from a physical standpoint, but more mental. And they're playing a good team tonight, right? So it's not like it's not like it's not like they're playing the Sun, right? So the fact that she's going and playing against a team that's positioning themselves for the playoffs and the Aces makes me a little apprehensive and trying to bet this game. But I do lean the Sparks here. I think the Sparks are playing better basketball. In your notes, they've won 5 straight, including a very impressive win over the Liberty. The Aces we know struggle, especially perimeter defense. Their guards are older, they're slower, they're not as agile as these young players. And for those who don't know, like Cameron Brink was a superstar, right? She was the second overall
Mhm.
pick last year. She was a star for Stanford. This is a big deal for her coming back. This is another potential face of the league, face of the WNBA as it continues to astronomically grow and 10x. Like she's going to be one of those stars. And so this is a big deal for the league, and she's returning in this big market. So um I don't know. I think I'm going to lay off of it, Sarah, but I do like the LA Sparks. If they can somehow integrate Cameron into their lineup without changing anything, right? Like just have her in 3 or 4 minutes every quarter and get her like high energy, get her to do all the hustle plays and stuff. I think that's great. But if they're going to start running plays through her, I think it'll be a little too early, too soon.
Right. And I kind of like the Brink under, the idea of that for all the reasons you mentioned, and also because they have been fine offensively. I mean, they have been fine. Take that with a grain of salt, but they have been kind of brutal on defense the whole season, and that's kind of the metric that still they're like 11th in the league when it comes to defense. That's what they need to shore up, and that's what she can provide. When she played 12 games as a rookie, that was pretty much like she's a big woman like along the board. She can provide that. So it's like, why wouldn't they look for her? Maybe it's kind of like how flag was used in summer league like a few weeks ago. Like, why not integrate you into the lineup in kind of a defensive type structure instead of kind of, all right, let's look for her to get points, which we already are getting right now.
Yeah, the offense is explosive, especially when Plum is making threes. Like they're averaging 80 plus a game, and so I agree with you. If she comes in and plays like the young Kawhi Leonard when the Spurs drafted him back in like 2011, 2012, where he was guarding the best player but not really looking for his shot on offense, maybe that's the way to bring Cameron back. But I'm excited to watch that game because you have some superstars. Obviously, you still have the Plum X team in the Aces narrative and all that. You still have Asia Wilson, who to me is the best player in the league. There's a lot of superstars on the court in LA tonight, so that should be fun to watch, whether you have money on it or not.
100%. So no official bets on this one, but you'd lean Sparks.
I do lean the Sparks, but no bet. Yes.
Good to know. I think they keep the strike going too. I feel like this is good momentum for them at a crucial time. And I feel like Kelsey Plum really thrives off of this kind of revenge arc that she has against the Aces. And it's at home. You know how it is. I kind of like their vibe tonight.
I agree with you. Doug doesn't like Kelsey Plum.
I know.
He thinks she's a little overrated, which I mean, there are aspects to that, but there's also a skill to how she plays. Like there's a skill to how she gets up for these games. She might be, hard to deal with. Trying to be very PC here, Sarah, but like, it's like that's just her MO and her energy. And if you can't match that, like she'll take advantage of that and she'll, step all over you. So the fact that she's doing what she's doing, we didn't expect LA to be, this competitive this year, right? Especially with Cameron Brink out until now. And so the fact that they won 5 straight, they're playing so much better post All-Star break. And I think they're starting to believe. And if they are going to get into the playoffs, the LA crowd is pretty good and pretty passionate. And so that would be a tough place to go travel to and win.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to discuss the Sparks team specials with you at this point, just because they're gaining this momentum and the playoff race right now. They are tied with the Valkyries with 11 wins, but they own just one more loss with 13. Meanwhile, the Valkyries are 4-6 in their last 10, and one spot out of the playoff spot that the also kind of struggling Aces currently hold. So I want to take a look at the Bet Rivers team futures markets with the Sparks first, then the Valkyries, and see if anything is worth our while here with how things are trending.
No, it's
So,
great.
no,
No, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
I think it's great that we're talking about this because if you were to ask the same question 2 weeks ago, right? Everybody was high on Golden State. They had an amazing first half of the year. They have one of the best home court advantages in the entire league outside of Minnesota. But they are struggling, and not only from like a X's and O's standpoint on the court. I mean, they just got blown out by the Sun. I mean, that's terrible. But they're also dealing with injuries. So you're seeing 2 teams move in completely opposite directions. One team is playing poorly and losing players, and the other team have won 5 straight and getting a superstar back. So with that, kind of context, like you would assume the better value here is the LA Sparks. We do know that usually if you're good at one thing, you're going to make the playoffs, and the Golden State Valkyries are really good at defense. They lean on that defense and try to keep the game in the 50s and 60s, and they're going to always be competitive, right? It's kind of like Virginia basketball all those years. Like they're just keeping it really, really slow, minimize the amount of possessions. And if they do that, they're always going to be in the game, especially if they shoot free throws well. Whereas the Sparks, we don't know what they're good at. We do know that they can be electric on offense when they're hitting threes, but it's not consistent. But if Brink comes back and gives them, the energy, you mentioned her size and athleticism, if she's that force in the middle on defense, then that's something that they can marry with on offense. But for me, the biggest question mark is Golden State, just because of the injuries are mounting up. I like the Sparks, projection a lot higher, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting that the Sparks hired Latricia Trammell as a special assistant. She was fired as the Wings head coach in October, but she has a lot of respect around the league and a solid resume when it comes to specifically coaching defense. And she worked with Plum in San Antonio as an assistant. So I feel like that's another thing. Like they're actively working on their defense. And like you say, they are trending up where the Valkyries are without Thornton now, who was their all-star. And I see this often, and I need to look up some stats on this, but when it comes to expansion teams, right, they get off to a hot start and they have the hype of their home. I think when you look at an expansion team that has success at home, then you kind of look at them dwindling out a little bit at the end of the season. It might be kind of like, and it's great for these teams. And you see the Valkyries, they have the success with like the best number of sellouts in expansion history. Like they're doing all this stuff off the court for like such a great basketball market, but you just kind of see the team itself trending in the wrong direction. So the Sparks to reach the playoffs are no minus 230 and yes plus 165. Do you see any value in taking either of those?
I'm an under better in general,
Okay.
so, those both those unders kinda speak to me. If you go 1-1, I mean, it's not too bad, you're losing a little bit of juice, but I think there's a better chance of it going 2-0 on the under than 2-0 on the over, and that's how I look at those 2 bets, in terms of wins. So, um, again, no official play,
Just
but I would not be backing anything Golden State right now.
I'm with you on that, and we're going to go get into their actual game tonight as we speak. So we got Valkyries versus Dream tonight, and I think you just might have an official play on this one.
I do like the Dream
Okay.
tonight. Atlanta will be my one and only official play on this show. I
Okay.
like them a lot. You mentioned it. Thornton's out for Golden State. They're
Mhm.
slumping. They're coming off, I think, like a 31-point loss to the Sun, which is, if you think about it, it's absurd. How do you lose by 30 points to the Connecticut Sun? But um, there's a couple of things going for Golden State in this game, right? Obviously, coming off a blowout, so you expect somewhat of a bounce back. Um, I think Tiffany Hayes was 0 for 8 in that game, so you're going to see some type of
Mhm.
bounce back for her individually as a player. So, I mean, I think Golden State has a little bit of value tonight. I just can't trust them because I do know, even when they were a good team, when they were considered good a month ago, they were not a good road team. They're a great home team, not good on the road. Atlanta is a tough place to play, and I think Atlanta's size is going to be too much for Golden State. I like them to dominate the rebounds tonight and cover this number pretty easily, in my opinion.
I'm a fan of that one, and I am with you on that. I do feel like the Valkyries, for me, it's one of the gut things that you're discussing, where it's just like it's the wrong timing for this team. In the Dream, you see they kind of are gaining momentum and looking to string together like a meaningful playoff run. They have a certain aura that I think the Valkyries don't right now, and it's a shame because I'm loving watching them in the beginning too. But I just have seen this film a few times before, where it's kind of that expansion team that everybody wants to succeed so badly that we maybe convince ourselves, oh, it's just kind of a stretch. But now we're in the second half, and it's like it's time to kind of look at where these teams are at, and it's one of those things that I'm completely with you on that.
And the great thing or the positive thing with Golden State is even if they have a bad second half of the season, Sarah, like it's been a
Mhm.
success. And they've brought basketball to the Bay Area, which is exciting for them. And you
Mhm.
can tell the fans have really, really welcomed them in. And even if they're losing these next few games, they're still gonna
Yeah.
sell out, right? They're still gonna have the interest. They're still gonna be able to not only sell at the stadium, but sell merchandise and all that. So I think the season is a success, and it's very clear that women's basketball is going to stay in the Bay Area, which is what we all want. So I think Golden State at this point, again with the injuries, and Sarah is alluding to it, but like they're an expansion team, so they're going to be limited when it comes to talent. That's just the fact of it, right? They were outplaying the expectations early in the year, but now they're limited. Their limited talent is limiting them to get these wins. And so, in my opinion, this number is shorter than I would expect. I think the Dream, if the Dream are playing and focus, and I hope they are tonight, they should win this game by 15, 16 points. So double that. If you're looking into alternative spreads and getting some plus money value, I think this is the one game to target, because Golden State, again, bad team on the road. They are short. They are short when it comes to talent, and they're short becomes when it comes to injuries as well tonight. I think they're a team that's going to not mail it in, Sarah, but I think they're looking forward to going back home.
100%. And as we're sitting here talking about kind of the expansion team of it all, you are kind of talking me into an idea that I thought I had before the episode and was mulling over. I think I'm going to do under 19.5 wins at minus 132 at Bet Rivers for Valkyrie's team specials. I
I like
think it's nothing against the team. I don't want to root against them, you know what I mean? But it's nothing against them. I don't think it means anything bad for the franchise. And I will say one thing everybody has to respect about them is they have made the W more competitive as a whole, right? Like you're watching their games oh my God, my cat. Everybody say hello to Rangoon.
it.
Hello,
That's awesome.
Rangoon. She had her take. She said, I like the Valkyries, mom. Okay, anyway, I where's she trying to go? I'm gonna do the under 19.5 wins at -132.
I like it. I think that's the right side. I don't see the Golden State Valkyries going on a run where they win like 5 out of 6 to get that number over. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, I will look at kind of the rest of the slate going forward, but I will definitely be locking that in. So we have one final game here on tonight's slate. We got Sky versus Mystics, and we have Angel Reese's return after she was nursing it's a precarious back injury, I believe. So that's going to be kind of tough to get a read on as we look at tonight's bets and the spreads. So we have the Sky as underdogs at plus 260, the Mystics to win minus 345, and there's a 7.5 spread, while the over under is set at 156.5. Albert, what's your read on tonight's game?
The total is very low. So when I see a low total like that, whether it's WNBA or NBA, I'm looking at player prop unders. And when it comes to unders, I think the superstars are the ones you want to focus on because everybody's betting overs with those superstars. So Angel Reese, first game back. I don't know how serious that back injury is, but we do know she's not 100%, right? And the way that she plays, her playing style being in the interior and physical and, going for rebounds and all that, I think it's going to really limit her back injury. So I would look into Angel Reese unders is my other thing. And then also they're still missing Ariel Atkins, who to me is their best perimeter player, their best scorer on the outside. So it just gives the Mystics even more, energy and focus on the interior players with Cardoso and Angel Reese. And so I think the Mystics are going to be able to handle the Sky pretty easily as well tonight. I'm just not confident enough that they can cover the number. I think they'll win, but I don't know if they'll cover because they're not looking to blow the Sky out. And if it's a low scoring game, that possessions are going to be premium and most likely the scores are going to be closer. So layoff for me, if you're able, with your books to be able to grab Angel Reese unders, to me, that's a play, whether it's points, rebounds, assists, all of them individually or a combination of them. I expect her to be on a little bit of a minutes restriction tonight.
Right. It's tough for me when it comes to Reese because I know she's so competitive, and I know that the Sky, they're technically still in the playoff race, and I know she kind of wants to get in there and contribute, and she had been before the break, but at the same time, I feel like the minutes restriction is probably the most accurate, and they're going to probably force her hand at not playing a lot so she doesn't aggravate the situation, whatever is going on with her injury situation.
Yeah, I agree with that because she's again, I mentioned it earlier, she's another one of these faces of the league, superstars, and so they want to make sure that she's healthy moving forward. And if these games where you mention it, like the Sky are still mathematically in it, but do they really have a chance, right? Is the really underlying question. And I think they're gonna make not going. I think the franchise has already made the decision, like they're gonna protect Angel Reese moving forward.
Right. And that's probably the way to go. Meanwhile, the Mystics, it's kind of tough for me to get a read on them this season. I know they had so many injuries last season and they kind of come back stronger this year, but I'm curious your thoughts on what they've done this season.
You're right. This is a tough team because I thought early in the season, I was on the Mystics pretty often just because they were really feisty to me. They were underrated heading into the season. They have stars like Brittany Sykes and Dolson, but it's like it's their young players that have really performed well, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's Citron, that's who I'm talking about, right? She was in the 3-point contest a couple weeks ago, but
Yeah.
she's had a great season so far. And I think the energy that she brings, not only shooting threes, but like she's one of those guard defenders that doesn't back down. And I love seeing that in the WNBA. And so she is like she and along with other players are kind of like the mindset, the energy of this team, like very hard nosed, very hard working. And so that's why I like the Mystics, but I like them usually as an underdog, as a favorite, and trying to front run and beat teams by over, 7.5 points in this case. That's a different discussion, and that's why I'm laying off of it.
Yeah, that's a great take. And I like the conservative betting sometimes when there's a time and a place, right? We're before the trade deadline, and it's kind of, I'd like to see how the deadline shakes out before I'm kind of doing all of my late second half bets of the season before we get into the playoffs, which is going to be so much fun. But I know that the deadline's ahead, and there's going to be several teams that are on the bubble right now, looking to see where they're at right now. And that can also mean certain players like having limitations, certain players getting their minutes kind of either expanded or shortened. And you're kind of in no man's or no woman's land when it comes to that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the trade deadline is August 7th, I think,
Mhm.
midnight. And so we're a week away, pretty much like 7 or 8 days away. And so we're going to see a lot of player movement in the next couple of days. It's very similar um, to Major League Baseball, where you see buyers and sellers. And so I expect one or two, stars, quote unquote stars or all stars, to be moved in the next week. And we'll see which teams are really going to go for it, because Minnesota is really good. Let's talk about them. Minnesota is really, really good. They obviously have the best record in the league. They have the MVP there in Collier. Great shooters all around. They play tough defense. But are people afraid? Are people scared of them? Like, I don't think people view them when the Aces were at the peak, or Liberty last year. See, looking at the page now, they're not even the betting favorite to win the entire thing, but they are by far, from a record perspective, the best team. So I would love to hear your thoughts, Sarah, on that.
I know. I think I look at a team like the Liberty, and it's like no matter you see the Stewie injury happening, no matter what, they just kind of like build another head or a tentacle, and they just like come back, and you just expect them to win. I mean, they've had a few troubling losses recently, but you expect them to bounce back. And I think their bounce back rate is something that gives me much more confidence than a team like the Lynx. And I love Minnesota. Like I love the way they play, but I do think, and I love I mean, Nafisa's the star and she's going to win unless barring something crazy happens. But there's not much competition this year in the MVP race when you get to the injuries that have happened to kind of key players. When you get to Caitlin Clark, you get to Wilson. It's just kind of, you don't, I mean, and Stewie too with her injuries, it's kind of the path was cleared for her. And that gets to my point that I'd like to see another star on the Lynx. It feels like there needs to be just like a little more star power when you see if Nafisa was to sustain an injury, you're wondering who's going to kind of pick up slack like a deep team like the Liberty does. So I'd like to see them a little bit deeper. And I do kind of think there's a little fatigue when you see a team that's been good for years and you kind of want someone else to win. And I kind of think maybe that's where my biased head was at when it goes to the Mercury. But I do think the Mercury has more of that mentality. Maybe they have more of that dog in them, if you ask me, where they just win those close games. And it's like maybe they're not more consistent, but I see kind of them closing out the tougher games.
Yeah, Phoenix definitely has that reputation, right? And I think being fans and watching from the outside, Sarah, it makes a lot of sense. But I guess my counter, like, Minnesota has been put to the limits a few times, not only this year but last year as well. And I think they're battle tested. But I agree with you. If you look at the rosters, if you go woman to woman rosters, Lynx and Liberty, like the Liberty have like, if you're a casual fan, they have like 5 or 6 players you've heard of, right?
Mm.
Whereas when you look at the Minnesota Lynx, it might be only Nafisa. It might be only 2 players, right? And so star power is still important in this league, just like the NBA. And I think the Liberty, the Aces, like those teams, if the Fever ever get healthy with Caitlin Clark, and they're going to be buyers because Caitlin Clark is, every time you have a healthy Clark, you have a chance to win a playoff series. And so I think they're going to pair her up with another, star in the backcourt, in my opinion. I think there's rumors around Hines Allen or someone like that. But if the Fever get healthy, that's a team that could beat the Lynx too. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I don't think it's over for the Lynx by any means. They are the best team for a reason, and everyone's going to have to travel to Minnesota to win, which is a hard thing to do. And so we'll see what happens in the playoffs. I'm just excited to watch it.
I'm excited too. And they love being disrespected. They kind of thrive off that. So maybe that's bulletin board material. But either way, I'd like to see them kind of have their signature moment so I can step back and say, you know what? maybe like there are a few more stars on this team that I've been overlooking. But to do that, it takes kind of years of going to the playoffs and years of building up and having those signature moments. You know what I mean? Like even looking at my Celtics, the Tatum signature games, right? I'm like, all right, that's what he had to do to get to. People are still talking about that he has no aura, so whatever. But to me, he has aura because he has put together these signature games. So it's just kind of like you got to show me in the playoffs. So I really want to see them kind of take that jump to playoff domination, because the way this league goes too, it's kind of like you see the Aces with their dynasty, you see the Liberty with their consistency, and you want to see that from a team like the Lynx to kind of like you want to see them win these championships before we can seriously put them in that conversation, right?
I've said this many times, and I'm glad you brought it up as a comparison, but the Minnesota Lynx, this version, right, who lost in the finals last year, lost in the Commissioner's Cup finals this year, will be the #1 seed this year. Like, it's very similar to the Celtics prior to winning, right, prior to 2024. So after they, made all those playoff runs, after losing to the Warriors in the finals, like, it doesn't happen until it happens. And once it happens, once they win, like that whole reputation or mantra of like, this team can't win the big game, it's just gone, right? Like that happened to Giannis until he won. That happened to Jokic until he won, right? It's just there until it's not there. And I think Minnesota does have a chance. I think, though, from a X's and O's standpoint, they just don't have enough quickness in the perimeter. Like, you'll have guards like Caitlin Clark and Sabrina and those guards like being able to, get their own shot and play make against in my opinion, a slower Minnesota team.
Right. You brought up Jokic and I started laughing because I was wondering if you saw the video of him.
Of course. Yes.
Oh my goodness. It's like the memes of when he wins the NBA championship and he's smiling, he's pretty happy, but he's sobbing because his horse just won this race. He goes over and he hugs the horse. He's crying, hugging the jockey. He's like pouring champagne over everyone. It's just like the NBA is that guy's 9 to 5, and I love it.
The best player in the world. It's his 9 to 5. He loves his horses.
Yeah, so that's some fun summer content there from the NBA. And folks, we are going to recap our best bets and wrap it all up here. But make sure you didn't miss a fresh Betting Weekly game bet match released this morning. Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert discussed their favorite matches from the round of 64 at ATP Toronto, and they had a blast as always. So Albert, what are your official game bets tonight?
Yeah, just one. So I'm going to be fading the Golden State Valkyries. I do like Atlanta Dream -8. It was 7.5 earlier. 8 is still safe in my book. So give me the Dream -8. Hopefully they take care of it early and often, and it's a no sweat winner in the end.
Great. I'm going to take the under in that game in general. I'm going to do Cameron Brink under as well, because I really liked where your head was at with that. And I'm so excited to watch that game. So I might not put a full unit on that one, but I do like the idea of like having a little juice behind that while I watch the game. And I'm going to do Valkyries under 19.5 wins for the rest of the season, or for the season as a whole. I'm going to lock that in right now. Okay. So we're kind of fading the Valkyries in general tonight.
I think that's the right side for sure.
All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in, Albert. Thank you for being a part of this, and everyone behind the scenes doing these amazing graphics and getting it all set up for us. Thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and we'll catch you next time.